Hello, everybody. Welcome to Narrative Live. It's a Wednesday evening. We have part two of our Anti-Vaxxer Myth show coming up tonight. We're really excited to have you with us. And here's Heidi Kuda in LA. How are you doing, Heidi?
I am well. My dad would love that opening so much. It's just so beautiful.
It really is. You know, Matt Fowler did that, and it's just an incredible piece of music. So I'm so thrilled that he did that for us. We have a big show tonight, and this is a lot of your work that you've done because we're going to be listening to tapes, actual tapes, and watching actual tapes where we're going to see the making of one of these anti-vaxxer myths. You know, we've seen and heard them over months and years. Now we're going into the machine that really creates these myths and these lies that has created an anti-vaxxer movement, which quite frankly has been costing thousands of American lives. Tell us a little bit more about what we're going to see tonight.
Well, yes, we're going to actually take you right into the sausage factory where you will actually hear how this rhetoric is presented to people who then go out and proselytize it throughout the country. And we're also going to trace the why of it. It's very, very sus. And like you just said, Zev, the urgency is, it's a bit terrifying. We are losing lives. People are being brainwashed by very crafty propaganda.
Yeah, and people, you know, in this show won't be surprised to hear that it's a propaganda effort, that it's an op, but we're going to show you exactly how it is an op and how important it is that we shut that down. So that's coming up in our second block. Also, just to try something different and new tonight, we're going to ask everyone who's watching this stream right now to retweet the stream right now. We want to see what happens to our audience when that happens. So if you want to, you're not asked, we're not forcing you, of course. But if you would be so kind, retweet this tweet right now, the stream, and let's see if that changes our audience numbers and gets the message out to even more people, because it is a really important show. On the same lines, we ask you to please note our sponsors tonight, Made In and Moink. They're great products, and we really want you to support them because they really support us. There's no ways we could afford to do any of this without the support that we get from you, our viewers, and also the advertisers that we have on the show. So with all of that now said, we can do the starting block.
Yay.
Yeah, I do love this thing. So plenty of stuff in the news today. Last night I was relieved. I stayed up a little bit late, but not that late because it was over so quickly when Gavin Newsom was soundly defeated that recall effort. That was a pretty impressive thing that he pulled off there. You're in California. What's the mood like there?
Oh, relief. When we activate our base, we are unstoppable. And Newsom stomped this Fonus Balonus recall. As you know, we have the same dark money problem that that's on the federal level, where we don't even know where some of the money was coming from that created this mess. So lawsuits actually were filed to determine who was paying for it.
In terms of how it started, the original effort, we don't know how that was even begun. And because as you found out through your research, a lot of it comes from oil money. You know, it's not really a grassroots effort to recall a governor. This is stuff that's coming from oil. Which,
exactly. Only 3% came from people. The rest was industry. So that would include the religious right, which is one of the lawsuits. You know, somebody donated $500,000 to the recall effort, and there literally was a lawsuit filed in order to figure out who this person was, because they're using shell companies. And why? Because California's got the 5th largest economy in the world, and wouldn't they like to get their hands on that? So they being the GOP. So we're still.
There certainly seems to be 3 possible answers when you try to figure out where all of this is coming from. It's either Russia and China, oil money, or the extreme right, the religious right in America. Those are the top 3 choices every time one of these things comes up, and we need to start looking at those squarely and defeating them. The other big story of the day, in story number 2 on our starting block today, is that incredible book that is still causing waves. I haven't read the book, to be completely honest, but I've heard enough about it to be able to say a few things. And this is the book called Peril by Bob Woodward and Robert Costa, who's both from the Washington Post. And the thing that seems to be getting everyone's attention is General Mark Milley's attempts, and successful attempts, to really block any military maneuver or any last minute provocative effort by the outgoing president to, incite some sort of war, create some provocation, anything to keep himself in power. And it's stunning to me I was going to read the actual excerpts here, but I do not have them available, so I won't. But it's stunning to me that we have such a short memory, Heidi. Like, it seems to me that we've already figured out that Donald Trump is a Russian asset. In other words, he's not working in our interests, and Russia and China are aligned.
Right.
You cannot look at those two countries apart. They just are operating for the same reasons. They're operating together. It's not my saying. They really are strategic partners. If you look anywhere, Russia and China are strategic partners. They do their military exercises together. They do whatever they do together. So, when we look at Donald Trump starting a potential conflict with China, it would have been because China and Russia wanted a potential conflict with China and Russia. In other words, they would have been provoking a war with themselves. And so Milley was not acting as a traitor, as Donald Trump was claiming on Newsmax last night. Donald Trump is the traitor. He is the guy causing treason. And it's Mark Milley who went in as a hero, as a patriot, as an American, and was able to stop that. And in cases like that, I think you throw the rules out of out the window. They don't matter so much, because one's a patriot, Mark Milley, patriot; Donald Trump, Russian asset. Keep that in mind always, because it helps you. It helps you understand the picture that we're dealing with here. It's frustrating, I got to say. We've been doing this for so many years, but somehow people seem to give him legitimacy, and I think it's because of the GOP. I think it's because
I think we just need to put it on a T-shirt or something, and maybe they'll get it. But when Marco Rubio calls it an act of treachery, we know it's the opposite. And if Biden says he's a patriot, you can probably bank on it.
Of course, he's a patriot. Can you imagine taking that burden on yourself to go and stop a potential military conflict like that? And of course, it would have been in China's interest to start some sort of conflict when they're the ones in charge of how it's going to operate. The thing that's really interesting for me is the amount of Chinese influences we've uncovered here on this show involved in January the 6th. So this idea that, they're surprised, that China was somehow surprised, caught off guard, whatever they weren't surprised or caught off guard. They knew exactly what they were dealing with, because they are the ones who sparked it partially. I mean, certainly a lot of the Epoch Times and that kind of stuff, as we've been looking at here on this show, seem to be aligned with China's interests. Bannon, Guo, all those people, those are Chinese influence operations designed to make our country less stable and more polarized. And in fact, it's got a lot to do with what we're discussing in the next segment. So when we're going to come back and we're going to talk to Sean Connor about this incredible investigation that he has done and you've done into how the anti-vax myths are created, we'll be coming around this theme again. So keep it all in mind. And as soon as I find what I need to hear, I will play it. And I don't know if you've got anything to say, but can you say it while I try to find this?
All I want to say is that I do look forward to the treachery of uncovering Trump's Chinese bank accounts. We know they exist. What are they for? If there's anything that's treacherous, it's that.
Well, there is that $200 million loan that we still, China denies they ever gave Donald Trump. But, I don't buy what China says at face value, not anymore. So there's that. Plus, there's more, I'm sure. And there's trademarks. And my favorite is Ivanka's daughter singing, on video at some sort of song to Xi. Did you ever see that? Disturbing.
Yes.
Disturbing
very,
AF,
very talented young girl.
Yes. We'll be right back after this, and we'll go into part 2 of our big exclusive, the Anti-Vaxxer myth. That's coming up next on Narrative. Hey folks, it's Zev. Thanks for supporting Narrative. Here's a question. Why are 97% of the chicken served in the US dipped in chlorine? Yes, chlorine. Well, it's simple, because Big Food doesn't have the same quality standards as the family farm. That's why you need moinkbox.com. With Moink, you get the highest quality meat you've ever tasted while supporting real family farms. Moink delivers grass-fed and grass-finished beef and lamb, pastured pork and chicken, and wild-caught Alaskan salmon direct to your door, helping family farms become financially independent outside of big agriculture. Their animals are raised outdoors, their fish swim wild in the ocean, and Moink meat is free of antibiotics, hormones, sugar, and all the other junk you find prepackaged in the meat aisle. I love Moink, and I know you will too. Moink meat is so delicious. If you want to get the absolute best quality while supporting the little guy, I recommend you get to Moink right now. Join the Moink movement today. Go to moinkbox.com/narrative. And listeners to this show get free bacon for a year. That's 1 year of the best bacon you'll ever taste, but for a limited time only. Spelt Moink, M-O-I-N-K. That's moo and oink together. Moinkbox.com/narrative. N-A-R-A-T-I-V. That's moinkbox.com/narrative. And we're back. Thank you for joining us on Narrative tonight. Here's Sean Connor. Sean,
Yay.
welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm a big fan of following you for a while, and appreciate it.
It's great to have you here. You've been doing some terrific work. Why don't you tell everyone what you do so they have a handle on how you have got into the story we're getting to tonight?
Sure. We have my wife and I. We've owned a litigation support firm. So we're a boutique litigation support firm. What we do is we help plaintiffs' attorneys do research and analysis for whatever cases they may be working on. She has a PhD cellular and molecular biology. Yeah, so she does. She helps.
What is she? She's got a PhD in what? She sounds. That sounds like a very
cellular and molecular biology.
That sounds like something I know nothing about, and we'll never know. We'll never be able to figure out. Cool. So, that's really good stuff you do.
Great on her. Yeah. So she does causation and helps attorneys pass Dalbert challenges. I do audiovisual stuff for trial, demonstrative evidence, and I do research analysis and help them with the discovery. So I've been doing that for about 5 years now. Yeah. You
actually are a good lawyer that does good things for the world. That's a rare thing.
Well, that's who we try and surround ourselves with. That's why there's not a ton of people out there, but there's a few, and that's all it takes.
Oh, amazing. Good for you. So yesterday on the show, we had Ann Nelson on, and I keep forgetting his name because it's just the doctor.
Dr. Nick Sawyer. And I love it. Nick Tom Sawyer. That might help you.
That's so easy to remember.
His name is actually Nick Tom Sawyer.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's great. So Nick was on the show, and so was Anne, talking about the influence that the Council for National Policy has had in terms of driving this anti-vaxxer phenomenon that has happened in this country. So, a lot of us think, there's the other side that don't want to get their vaccinations, and why are they doing that? We can't understand why they're doing it. Well, they're doing it because they're getting a huge amount of influence thrown at them from outside sources. And one of those things we discovered in our show yesterday was one of those outside sources was the Council for National Policy. And tonight we're going to be continuing on that theme because we're going to be looking at other sources of influence and actually showing people some of the tapes and listening to some of the tapes that prove that this is where it comes from. This is not just our say-so. It's this is actual evidence where we can see and hear how these death myths are being constructed. I mean, they really are, we can call them whatever we want, but they're killing people. At the end of the day, these are instruments of death. And we need to be careful about making sure that we don't just gloss over them, because it's quite easy to gloss over them, but they're actually incredibly destructive.
That's right. In fact, guys, that's how I connected with you all. I think Heidi was one of your long form posts on Twitter that connected Anne and Doctor. And so that's how I reached out, because we had been doing obviously research in the same area. We'd been preparing a False Claims Act case to file with the Department of Justice on this group. And we did file it, not going to end up getting the false claims case, but still that's where our research came from. And so once I saw that you post that, and then of course Anne's work in the area, et cetera, that's how we all got connected.
It's great.
And of course, Jim Stewartson, our good friend, all connecting dots for us.
Amazing how this community does this work, and how much great stuff comes out of all of us collaborating, and the open source researchers who are contributing to so much of our work. It's just fantastic to see how this is all unpacking itself and helping us get out of the problems that we're in. And a lot of the stuff tonight, if I was working at a network and had this kind of exclusive in my hand, I'd be trumpeting it everywhere. Of course, you won't see this kind of stuff on the networks because I don't know why, but I might know why, but you're not going to see it anyhow. So let me tell you, this is the kind of big exclusive that you would absolutely trumpet on every network and in every major headline. It's a really big story, and I'm really excited to be able to share it with everyone tonight. Let's begin by talking a little bit about the White Coat group, or White Coats group, however you say it. Tell me a little bit about who they are. This is her name is Dr. Simon, right? That's her.
Dr. Simone Gold.
Simone Gold.
Simone,
Sorry.
yeah, please. It's French.
Listen. So tell me about Simone Gold and her little unit. We spoke about them yesterday when we described the White Coat Summit. The original one, it was, I guess, there was a lot of photos taken outside Capitol Hill. Now there's this version of it, which was the second year version of it, right? The America's Frontline Doctors.
That's right. So they went ahead and they had an anniversary event, if you will. So they did a Frontline Doctors White Coat Summit 1 year later. So that's I found that quite humorous that they're already sophisticated enough to have reunion events. But the thing that was different about this one versus last year, obviously last year was constructed and it was more of a press event, if you will. This one, they included a legal track. So there's a legal track running concurrently with their let's call it anti-vax track, and they have their anti-law track essentially.
And we discovered yesterday that the CNP actually is the origin of this group. This is how this group started. Right. The Council for National Policy sort of sparks this interest in getting the economy restarted in the middle of the pandemic, and they bring in Dr. Simon. And I'm going to blank from her name, Simone Gold. Sorry,
Simone Gold,
and she brings in this organization called the White Coats, and then the White Coat Summit follows from there. And this is basically a group of MDs that create disinformation. They're there to influence the narrative of what we're going through in a negative way, as it turns out. And so this year they held a second conference, and they included a legal track, like a legal advice section.
That's right. And it was not open to the public. It was not open to the press. Which I found quite interesting. So they had their group
because that's always good.
Essentially, it was their sort of the people you see over and over at the different events, including also now we have different lawyers that were coming out and giving their talks and explaining different ways you can file complaints and things like that. That's how I was introduced into this whole group. I was in a meeting with one of these attorneys. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, at some point.
Yeah. So what you were in a meeting with one of the attorneys from who presented to this group, or
one of the attorneys that attended.
They attended. So now not only doctors were arriving there, but lawyers were showing up. Because the doctors are useful for spreading some information, but they do have limitations. Lawyers seem to be able to get away with a little bit more, as we've discovered through, the big lie. They can really drive a lot of disinformation through the legal system. That's really a sort of a strategy now of the right wing. Is they can use lawyers and fake arguments and lies in a court to legitimize arguments, and we've seen that through Rudy Giuliani's and Sidney Powell's big lie. Now we're seeing it as well. You're bringing us evidence today that it's happening from within the legal community, organized by this America's Frontline Doctors and the White Coat Summit, the same group that was started by the Council for National Policy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, and you'll see tonight that lawyers not only have the gift to gab, but they have the ability to really gum up the works in our courts, which is actually what happened. And just to back up a little bit, America's Frontline Doctors also include Scott Atlas. You probably already forgot him. They all come and go. Rand Paul. And so there's a very handful.
The Tea Party.
A very targeted. Yes.
And one of the things that they're essentially just following suit for Donald Trump's entire history of using the judiciary as a weapon against his opponents, and now they've started following suit with that, and that is a huge problem not only for the individuals that are party to the suit, but to the entire functioning of those courts, because there are so many courts. The docket is already pushed 1.5 years because of COVID. So some trials that were supposed to go to trial last year that we were going to be a part of got pushed, and they keep getting pushed. Like we're in Texas, and we're on the 17th or 18th COVID update for pushing trials and updates.
You got to wonder who would benefit from court cases being postponed. I mean, that couldn't benefit any former president or any of his administration, perhaps.
Right. And if they start filing these frivolous lawsuits across the country, they have to be dealt with appropriately through the courts, and that takes time and resources and money. So
I think Glenn Kirshner has been on the show, and he said exactly that. He said that they're gumming up the works, and they're doing it to some extent on purpose. But there's not only that. This is actually costing lives. Like they're using the legal system as an instrument against the American people. It's like it's weaponizing our Department of Justice and weaponizing the justice system against us. And the people that are doing it are not necessarily Americans. They're also potentially people who come from foreign intelligence operations or foreign influence operations. And one of these people that you show that came up to this legal summit at the America's Frontline Doctors at the White Coat Summit this year was a guy named Todd Callender, right? Is that guy?
That's him. Yeah.
Tell us who Todd Callender is.
I have no idea, Zev. No, I don't. The thing about Todd is that there's hardly any information about this guy online whatsoever. He has done a fantastic job of sort of cleaning. His digital record is pretty negligible. In fact, we didn't even know what he looked like until we saw the video posted by America's Frontline Doctors. So until we saw that video, the speech that he gives, we didn't know who he was. And he's a fascinating individual. He's got a fascinating family, which I'm sure we'll talk about. He's got an interesting background. He currently lives in the Bahamas, and he has a pretty good little system going in the Bahamas with, actually, I'll take one step back. The only place that he does exist online is in the Panama Papers. So in the Panama Papers,
so he's a total ghost online, except for the Panama Papers.
Panama Papers, he's all over. He's the most popular guy in there. But
I don't know how people do this, because I know a few people who've been able to clear their entire histories off the internet, and in almost all cases, I suspect them of being agents of foreign governments. I mean, I'm not saying that about Callender, because we don't know that, right. but it's certainly the people who work in the shadows, as they describe it to me, are people who work in the shadows. They don't get. How do you clear your name from all of Google? I mean, do you have no existence? It's not possible.
It's remarkable, man. I'm telling you, that kind of gave us the first few red flags, and that we'll dig into. But I mean, it's remarkable when someone only has 10, 12-page background report. I mean, that's I've never seen something like that.
Yeah, it's stunning. It really is stunning. So Mr. Callender over there, who we don't know very much about, shows up leaves the Bahamas because he's got something important to tell the White Coat Summit.
He's from Colorado.
You're right.
He's from Colorado.
How to fly planes.
Okay.
His law firm is interesting. His international law firm is called the Corporate Law Firm. And they have a Colorado residence, and they have one in Florida on what my OSINT friend says is the Russian Riviera, and that brings us up to speed. But yes, he does live in the Bahamas.
Russia's a thread tonight. Russia's definitely a thread, as it is almost every night on Narrative, because that's the reality. Heidi, I don't know if you want me to go through some of these slides that are with the notes on them, or would you like me to go into playing back some of Callender's speech here? Which would you?
I think that we should probably start with the video clips, and then we can look at some of those slides, because they will help us tell a bigger story.
Okay, so I've got these in different orders here, and they may differ from what you are expecting, but I'm going to just go with them. I don't know what they say because I've seen them, but I don't know. I just got numbers, so I apologize if we sort of miss the order up.
It's all fascinating.
It's all fascinating. This is an incredible story. You guys have done an amazing job, and keep asking questions or commenting on the Twitter feed here, on the chat room, and we'll make sure we answer all of those later on. So let's get to this is the first of these clips, and this is Callender speaking at America's Frontline Doctors at their second White Coat Summit, which happened this last July
24th. July 24th, San Antonio, Texas.
So really, really recently. Let's take a listen to what he has to say here.
The story begins some years ago with something called the Good Club, where the ultra elite, supremely wealthy, including Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, sorry for all of you that love Oprah, Warren Buffett, they all got together in New York, and they decided that the world is overpopulated. And you would have seen after that Bill Gates up on a stage no different than this one saying, yeah, the world's overpopulated. The story begins some years ago with something called the Good Club, where the ultra elite, supremely wealthy, including Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, sorry for all of you that love Oprah, Warren Buffett, they all got together in New York, and they decided that the world is overpopulated. And you would have seen after that Bill Gates up on a stage no different than this one saying, yeah, the world's overpopulated.
So I played that twice because I had the audio interrupted there on the first take.
Okay.
This is a popular conspiracy theory out there, right? And by the way, I love Oprah so much. There's not a chance in the world that Oprah Winfrey's getting involved in a overpopulation conference. Just from my
She's
personal
a good
experience of her.
person.
Yeah, there's no.
There's not a chance in the world that Bill Gates is on the same kind of stage that Todd Gallinger's on also.
Yeah, of course. Exactly. So this is a myth. This is something that they're putting out there, and it's a very popular myth because, of course, overpopulation is an issue. You know, we do have not so much because it's overpopulation, but because of our food supply system. But we have it as an issue in our world. Now, this did not happen. There was no meeting that Oprah and Bill Gates and everybody got together and decided that they were going to come up with a system to eliminate the population.
What he's referring to, and then I think there's another clip that talks about it. He's referring to Event 201, right? The Johns Hopkins hosted university event that they've had a number of in the past. And what it is, it's a simulation of a viral outbreak, something that the Gates Foundation has been a part of for a number of years. So they ran an actual simulation. And of course, it was a COVID-2, right, virus. There's a lot of overlap. They actually created false press video that they would run to say, look, this is what would happen. It was, in fact, Johnson & Johnson was one of the major sponsors there for the vaccine. So if you're ever curious about that, but it certainly wasn't what he proposes it as, like a Bilderberg version of genocidal death. I mean, it wasn't anything like that.
Were any of these people at that conference? I mean, was Oprah there? Was and so everyone? So when this is a real thing that happened, there was a conference.
It was a conference. Yep.
When did it happen?
It happened in October, I think, 2019.
Okay.
So right a few months before the actual pandemic outbreak, but it was hosted by Johns Hopkins University, right? And it was essentially like running a fire drill. Essentially, it was like they have these. They've done. There's quite a number of them, and they do these as sort of real world model examples of what would we do if this happened, right? Because people have been screaming for years about we need to prepare better for this. For whatever vaccine,
the timing seems remarkable, though. I mean, it does seem like it just happened just before, and with a scenario that's so similar. So you can see how you would raises suspicion to some extent.
My initial, script writers are really good. Their propaganda script writers are good.
Yeah, but this is an event that really happened. So
yes, it was a real event, and it was but it was done for positive reasons, and it was taken as a why would this event, if it was actually an event for the destruction of the world, why would they have press releases about it? Why would they send out why would they have websites that host all the information? It's not like this was secret information. They put it out there because it was an event used to warn people. And
so there was no secret part of it where they were discussing how to handle the population and come up with some sort of pandemic to kill people. They were just figuring out how to respond to a crisis and an emergency like that. Okay, let's listen to another bit from Calvin.
The second part of that bite, if you can find it, he goes on to say that they were working with it. Yep.
We got to get that carbon number down to 0. Well, this is the creation, the foundation of what it is we have today. Certainly they're not the first, but they are all eugenicists. And they openly stated that. So along comes then this biological entity. Funny enough, Event 201, has anybody heard about that? We got to get...
So that's the event you're talking about. And also... it's interesting. Someone just said on chat that, every conspiracy theory always has a grain of truth, which is a rule that we sort of discussed here on narrative. And of course, this one has a grain of truth too.
100%. I mean, that's the thing that, so in the Event 201, it was a virus that jumped from pigs. It was a COVID-2 pig virus. Right, not a bat virus, but I mean it was incredibly similar. However, given certain circumstances, these things are all pretty. You can predict a whole host of things. These models, right, can predict all sorts of struggles and difficulties in the reaction of the NIH and the reaction of the CDC. There's all sorts of models that they use to forecast.
Right. And of course, they are preparing for it. Although it's interesting, that's around the same time, isn't it, that Trump also killed the pandemic response team?
I believe so.
Yeah. So even while this group was preparing for it, Trump was eliminating the government's ability to respond in any coherent way to a pandemic, which is very revealing. So let's listen to a little bit more. This is, again, tape from inside the White Coat Summit. This is how an anti-vax myth gets formed. And we're watching it in real time here. This is the next clip.
And I just want to spend a second on Nuremberg principles. I'm sure you've heard about it a little bit before. It arises from the atrocities of World War II, where prisoners were experimented upon, amongst other things. That all happened in 1945. And really what it created was the first principles, the first recognized principles of international criminal law. And I just want to spend a second.
So the Nuremberg myth. I mean, this is something, or the rule, sorry, but this is something that has been attached to the anti-vax movement. Tell us, Heidi, how this developed and how it's been quite prominent. Like, this has been used a lot recently.
Yes. We wondered where it came from, and we think this may be ground zero. And basically what it does is it does the ooga booga of Hitler, World War II, and it ties it together with the vaccine movement. But beyond that, it states if you say, oh, you were just following orders, then you're guilty. And he literally, on the website that he hosts, which I'm sure we'll get to, calls these death shots. He calls the vaccine death shots. So he's tying the horror of the Holocaust with the punishment of the Nuremberg trial. Yes, exactly, to the vaccines. So you have these people sitting in the audience who I'm sure are thinking, wow, he uses some words, and then they go out and they make their placards, and there they go. You see people at protests right afterwards going, Nuremberg Code, look it up.
So when Marjorie Taylor Greene comes out and equates vaccinations with the Holocaust, this is where she's getting it from. This is the kind of nonsense that, it comes out of her mouth, comes from these kinds of propaganda meetings where this guy, who we have no idea who he is, shows up and starts equating vaccinations with the Nuremberg trials, which famously were, to convict Nazis after the Second World War.
That's right. And you'll remember the reason that I found out about this at all was because I was in a meeting the following week with an attorney who attended the conference, who was then out, looking to raise funds for lawsuits, right? And so that's how I found about his website, which is vaxchoice.com. So Todd Callender has a website that he hosts called vaxchoice.com. On that website, and he'll talk about it in one of these clips, he has a criminal complaint that he's incredibly proud of. So you can download the criminal, it's like a Mad Libs, or like a fill in the blank, So you download his criminal complaint, and then you put in your information, and then theoretically, right, you can go file a criminal complaint against, of course, who? The FDA, right? The insert who else did he does? It's an obscene amount of people who he names as defendants.
So what they're doing here is basically creating a platform for lawyers to start suing officials from the government based on these ideas, which are kind of nonsensical, like comparing this to the Nuremberg rule or whatever he's calling it there, which is basically, and just to describe this for people, the Nuremberg rule is like that I was just following orders, basically. So he's saying people are vaccinating people, they're potentially are killing people because of vaccinations, and therefore they're following. There's a correlation between their what they're doing and what Nazis did when they were killing Jews. I mean, it's ridiculous. Of course, people giving vaccinations are saving lives, proven saving lives. There's no doubt about it. 11 times less likely to die if you're vaccinated. That's the science. There's no other way to look at it. And this guy is making a correlation which totally does not exist between the morality of Nazis and the morality of giving someone a vaccination. Let's listen to another clip here.
It also provided for death penalties, capital punishment. One of my colleagues had mentioned that, in fact, some of the doctors that took part in Nuremberg's atrocities were hung, as were people that helped them. So no longer, after the Nuremberg Code, can you say, yeah, I shot him with a vaccine. I was just doing my job. That doesn't work anymore. It also provided for death penalties.
So, wow. I mean, that's kind of stunning. This is happening in America. This guy in a legitimate, well, appears to be legitimate conference, but isn't really, is telling people that vaccinations and the Holocaust are basically equivalent.
And if you assist in the doctor, right, giving the shot, you're guilty.
Yeah.
Right. So according to
that
the
all their
Nuremberg
bases
Code,
covered.
right. So then,
and we're going to sue everybody.
Right? Yeah. So everyone downstream from the doctor who actually puts the shot in is now guilty because they can't just say they were following the doctor's orders. I mean, it's hyperbole like to the nth degree. And he tried to defend one of these. He tried to defend an army sergeant in and the Marines again got laughed out of court. I mean, it was
got
summarily
tossed right
dismissed.
out.
Yeah.
So what's happening here is this is not only happening in isolation. Clearly, calendar is one piece of this propaganda effort, but there's probably, at the same time, an influence operation trying to push the same things. When you see Marjorie Taylor Greene making those equivalencies, when you see others in talk radio making those equivalencies, when you see other people on the ground, this is not just happening in one place, and it's also definitely happening in places like Facebook. Maybe not with the Holocaust, but certainly around other myths related to the to anti-vax world. So it's not like this is just one dude. He's one piece of a major operation.
Right, that's right. And unfortunately, I need to get my Facebook status back up to date, because in looking at some of the analytics from his website, Vax Choice, and from some other things, the far majority, 60 to 40% was shared on Facebook rather than Twitter or any other platform. So Facebook was the sort of main or the predominant sort of medium through which a lot of this message spread or linked back through, to his website.
Yeah, Facebook does appear to be the place where you can spread complete lies and propaganda without being stopped, and it seems to be designed for it, and they're doing very little, obviously, to stop it. So, it's no surprise that they're driving the traffic to him. It's sad that they're driving the traffic to him, and I'm sure there are lawyers who think they're going to make some money off this by taking these same legal cases to gum up the legal system.
It's horrifying. Yeah.
This is totally off topic, but get a good look at the suit.
I did actually.
Just get a good look at the suit. It's just,
The suit
the suit is a
tie.
psyop.
The tie.
Every time he's in San Antonio. Yeah.
Every time I see a suspected Russian asset, like hugging or draping themselves in the American flag, because who does that? I mean, it just makes no sense. But they seem to go overboard. Like, here's my beautiful couture dress made in the American flag as an homage to America. This guy's
going overboard. I think is going to be a theme of this guy. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Vax Choice.
We're just getting warmed up. I mean, he says that some of the things that he says, I'm trying to think of, what was it, 6A? I'm trying to remember which clip it was, but it's the one I did the pull quote from. Yeah. We are just getting warmed up. I mean, that is just the beginning of the propaganda.
Yeah, this is really, it really is. This is a very ill-fitted suit, I got to say. And that tie, I wonder if it's a Trump tie. Could be a Trump tie.
It's
Taylor subject to the Nuremberg Code as well.
Exactly. Let's take a look at this final bit about the Nuremberg rule.
Can you wage a war by yourself, or do you need somebody else to do that? Again, 2 or more people planning a crime in one step in furtherance. Crimes against humanity, that came out of the Nuremberg Convention, or Codex, I guess it's called. Genocide, homicide, attempted homicide, criminal assault, criminal battery, fraud in connection with a major disaster for emergency benefits, and racketeering. Can you wage a war?
And racketeering. Isn't he racketeering? It seems like he might be racketeering.
We'll get to that.
The Department of Justice might want to ask. I mean, that's these are some of the tamer language, but of course he's just repeating some of the principles of the Nuremberg Code. But I mean, it's just the fact that he unabashedly tied them together to the sort of public health efforts of creating a vaccine and then distributing a vaccine for the health and wellness of our country and our citizens is fascinating, especially when you find out what his family does for a living.
We're going to get there in just one second.
Let's not give it away yet.
We're going to get there. But I just want to underline to people that this is, you might live in an ecosystem, a media ecosystem, which is giving you aspects of the truth. If you're watching this show, you're getting probably the most clear version of the truth out there. But there's a lot of people in America that are living in an echo chamber that is completely a right-wing media echo chamber. They are hearing Fox News and Newsmax and AON, and they're listening to right-wing talk radio, and they're getting a constant feed in their Facebook feed of a parallel universe, where vaccinations are terrible and that the liberals are going to try to take the world over and turn it into a communist, turn America into a communist country. they are not seeing or hearing all the truth. They're just not getting it. And it's hard to imagine that, but that's just the reality of where people are living at. So, a lot of people can be angry at the people who are not getting vaccinated, but they're also, to some extent, are just victims of a propaganda effort that is completely brainwashing people.
Yep.
And let's add Epoch Times in there. These are all coordinated talking points. And what he is saying, and what he's going to say when we review a few more of those clips, those are all in that propaganda ecosystem you just mentioned, the Newsmax, the OAN, the Fox hosts, as well as Epoch Times. So I'm
glad you mentioned that, because the Epoch Times is the number one spreader of anti-vax disinformation in America, as we've shown in this show before. And it is not only in the newspaper, because you might think, well, that's just one thing, but there's advertising, and there's an allied TV network called NTD, I think, that spreads so much disinformation. A lot of the YouTube videos that you might see about vaccination being bad for you, or whatever conspiracy theories you might see on YouTube, they are often preceded by a ad made by Epoch Times or by NTD.
That's right.
This is directly linked to Falun Gong. And Falun Gong, as we've shown on the show, is not what we used to think. It's not purely anti-communist. It seems to be in bed with Xi, the Chinese leader. So you've got, this is proven stuff. I'm not saying it out of, just wishful thinking. We've been able to show this. So you've got a massive operation there. Everyone's heard of the Epoch Times. Lots of people get it on their doorstep. A lot of people watch.
If it's free, you're the product. That's absolutely right. It shows up uninvited. And for some people, I'm talking to family members, that's all they read now. And I am told that the Chinese edition for Chinese Americans living in America who predominantly speak Chinese, that it's even like 10 times louder and worse than even the American edition, which is pretty bad.
And let me add to that, when you look at people like Steve Bannon, who operates for the Chinese intelligence agencies, alongside Guo, who supposedly is anti-China as well, but isn't really. He's operating also as an intelligence asset here. These guys are spreading disinformation around coronavirus. Bannon has a thing called War Room, as if we're at war over a pandemic. We're not at war over a pandemic, but he's inciting a war really through this pandemic by running, pandemic myth after myth after myth. He was in business. I guess he's not anymore with Guo, who's the supposed dissident, who's not a dissident, also now proven to be, as of yesterday, spreading anti-vaxxing myths out there as well. So he's got his own TV network, something called GTV, I think. And so the machine that we're seeing spreading all this, AON, which we've discussed before, Newsmax, all these operations, on top of all these church groups, on top of all these other ways of getting to the grassroots, are very, very effective.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm not sure, guys. I think it's either the American Frontline Doctors or Vax Choice that's hosted by Epic as well. So we're just coming out.
EPIK?
That's right.
Oh, that's a good bit of intel. That was what we talked about yesterday, folks, where the huge hack just occurred. Oh, there's going to be so much coming out on that.
I can't wait to see all the information. Epic is where you go. No one else will host you. That's the place to go and hang out.
It's the 8kun essentially of website hosting, apparently.
Wow,
man.
So let's keep going here, because I do want to get to the influence that his family has and what they're trying to do. But I want to listen to a little bit more. This is really fascinating. I guess this is the section where, what are we going to talk about now? We've done Nuremberg.
We've done Nuremberg. We've done the liberal elites. There's just maybe 3 or 4 other short sound bites.
Okay, let's do
give a
number
sense of how visceral it is.
3A. Is that where we're at? I think we're at 3A. I think so. Let's find out.
The story begins some years ago with something called the Good Club.
Okay, we've done that. So this is live TV.
You can start with number 1. Yeah.
Okay, tell me numbers. So I should go to number 1 next?
Maybe.
Okay, let's try number 1.
Yeah.
I just happen to like.
If you believe in the Constitution and you believe in this flag, and you think somebody's trying to take it away from you, you might be a conspiracy theorist. If you believe,
so
that's his Jeff Foxworthy
projection. I love this. Reminds me of that time Donald Trump. It reminds me of the time that Donald Trump was like hugging that flag at the. I don't remember where it was. Was it at the Some
He
maybe it was,
he opens his talk with he rips off Jeff Foxworthy, which was this comedian in the '90s who just
yeah,
you might be a redneck if whatever.
right.
So he does he does 4 or 5 different strings together. This horrible, like completely unhumorous. You might be a conspiracy theorist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and obviously
When we had we were discussing the Moonies last week, and the theme around the amount of brainwashing that goes on, where everyone who is not holding your point of view is considered the enemy, right? So if you go to right-wing people who believe in these anti-vax myths and try to talk sense into them by giving them the facts, they're going to say to you, you're a you're part of the propaganda. You're selling us lies. They're pre-programmed to believe that everything that they hear that's opposed to what they're saying are lies, are propaganda. It's a really difficult situation to walk ourselves out of. So even showing people this would not convince anybody that this is actually what's going on in their communities or in their media echo chambers.
That's right.
But wait, there's more.
There is. You tell me where to go.
Well, no, I'm just saying as we walk our viewers through
I just don't know
what
which
we do know about this ghost.
Okay, so you tell me where we want to go next. Then, Heidi, because I've got only a list of things. So
try number 6. Try number 6. I think it was.
I think it was 6. Yeah, let's try 6.
6. Okay.
And if that doesn't work, we can just go to the slides.
Okay, let's do number 6.
They used the experimental gene therapy shots, in addition, for the delivery of nanoparticles, lipid nanoparticles. What is that? If you can imagine, these are atomic-sized delivery devices, and they carry around, I guess it's called proteins, viruses, whatever it is, antigens, designed to make your body react in a certain way.
So I've heard this so much. You want to laugh, but I've heard this so much about nanoparticles at all these anti-vax rallies that it's programmed along with the magnetization of the vaccine that you can apparently put a fork up against your skin and magnetizes. Not true. Doesn't happen. Also, nanoparticles, not true.
Lipids are fat. That's how it gets into the cell. My wife studied cell molecular biology. She studied the MNRA assay during her in order to graduate to get her PhD. And so she's driving her crazy. They misunderstand the word, the nanoparticle. They think it is some metal thing. And lipid nanoparticles, just a small, application around the outside with lipids so it can slip inside the cell and deliver what it's supposed to deliver. It's not a bot. It's not being controlled. It's not like that 80s movie where they shrink them down and put them in your blood or whatever that was. It's a vaccine, and the mRNA technology has been around for a long time. This is not new technology.
And it's remarkable.
Yeah.
It's remarkable technology. So the thing is, you can laugh at it, but it's also people are dying because they are not getting vaccinated. I mean, at the end of the day, there are people who are dying every day in America today and spreading this disease to kids. As we saw the number yesterday, 243,000 children getting COVID-19 tested positive last week, just 1 week. I mean, that's what this is causing. It's not. It's not just people spreading propaganda. It's people spreading propaganda that kills. And it's
there's a direct consequence to this type of action, this type of language. If you have 6B, do you have see a 6B on there?
Yeah, I do.
Just
into 6B.
They use nanoparticles to genetically modify, track, record, provide signals intelligence, programming, and complete control over humanity. And completion of the crime of the criminal enterprise is to tag, track, code, rate, measure, restrict, manipulate, dominate of every person and their rights on this planet. That's the theory of our case. They use nanoparticles.
I mean,
what do you do with that,
wow.
Zev? How do you deal with that?
I don't know, but I know that people believe it. I know that there are people who are so afraid of this, one world government and this authoritarian, that terrible authoritarian leader, Joe Biden, who's like the least authoritarian person in the world. It's that's the whole thing falls apart when you actually look at the reality of who Joe Biden is. But there are people who believe that this is happening and they feel like that this is the end of America, and that's why they've got to go and march on on Capitol Hill, and that's why they've got a protest this weekend for the Jan 6 and people are in prison.
Yeah.
This is the reality of where this comes from. They've been brainwashed by a bunch of lies that, and we'll get to this next, is where does, that seem to originate out of a foreign country.
Yeah. Where does it come from? I mean, it is so absurdist. I mean, the notion that, those vaccines, taking these nanobots and tracking you, and that we don't even have to get into the 5G application of this, and that notion that 5G turns it on, and, we have to do that without just, it's playing at these fears that, during any sort of, difficult time in the world, that's when these theories emerge, right? When there's loss of personal control, loss of control of the environment, decline in economic, either personal wealth or global wealth. And I mean, just a perfect instance, this guy who, apparently hates being tracked, does not want any information about him whatsoever, moved to the Bahamas so that he could live more, freely, which is another, sort of paradox, that he had to move out of the United States in order to have
hide his money. That's what people go to the Bahamas. They hide their money. Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying that generally. I'm not saying it about him, but
we'll get to that in a second. But I mean, it's that notion just blown out to the nth degree that that's what the government's going to control you, and here's how they're going to deliver that. Yeah. I mean, it's just absurd.
It is absurd. And here is how it lands up. I mean, this is one of these ads that, what is this that we're looking at?
This is his website,
this is
right?
His website.
So this is the splash page or the front page of his website, the homepage.
Yep.
Sign the petition to stop the death shots. And of course, if you sign that petition, what do? They capture your information. And what are they promoting? Ivermectin. And what else? You can file a criminal complaint. And I think probably the most stunning thing is not what you see there. It's where this website is linked to.
Before you go there, just the idea that vaccines, question, in quotation marks, this has been repeated over and over and over again in our newscasts everywhere in America, every day through these rallies and through these hearings and whatever. How many times have you heard people saying, if you called it a vaccine? And in fact, it is a vaccine. It's exactly what it is. And this is the origin of things like this. This is where it originates.
And I have to tell you, anybody listening, if you go to this page, please use a VPN. It's not protected.
Right. Don't go to this page. In fact, don't go to this page.
If you do, make sure, please take the necessary precautions to not reveal your IP and your information.
Yeah, I mean,
wow,
this is so. Heidi, you were going to tell us about where this links to.
Well, I mean, Sean started going down the rabbit hole. Then I went down the rabbit hole, and we just kept going down rabbit holes. And he will tell you that he found that this site is actually uses an address that's registered to a tribe that is actually at a Native American museum. And the Native American Museum in Oklahoma knows nothing at all about this guy or that site. And take it a step further, there's supposedly an insurance company that's there, and the first one in this, Oklahoma tribe. And Sean found it just to be another kind of ghostly dead end.
Yeah.
So tell us more about that. Yeah.
Yeah. This was when I, my sort of anger at this fellow sort of turned a little bit. So basically what we did as Reason Results is we were going to do a dry run where I got a bunch of these shit posting hacker guys that I've been following on Twitter and asked them to come in and see.
Let's just back up for a second. He put together a merry band of shit posting hackers to do legal open source information work. This is all legal.
Yeah, that's
I really like that
source
part
researchers. We don't call them hackers. We call them open source researchers. But
That's
you're right. It's a good way of referring to it. This is the people who are saving America right now. That's
right,
what I believe.
Exactly. That's right.
I mean, and their technical know-how and knowledge base is vast. So I brought them in and sort of started teaching them legal language and the chain of custody and sort of the rules of procedure. And through that we sort of came up with this story and this information. So the first thing that was good.
No, I just want to hear about this tribe. It's really fascinating.
Yeah. So this is crazy. On his vaxchoice.com website, if you go to the privacy policy, right, it says that it's there you go. This is privacy policy. St. Matthew Assurance is located at this address, right? It operates this website. So I was like, what the hell is this? So I went to the actual St. Matthew's Assurance page, and it describes itself as a tribal insurance company licensed by the Modoc tribe of Oklahoma.
So firstly, he's doing it as a front, right? This is not some sort of vaccination thing. He actually owns a company that's an assurance company. I mean, we don't know if it
No,
actually
no.
insures people, but it's registered as an insurance company.
It's not. You can't find this. This company's not registered. It's not available.
So it's
He's
just
got
something that is registered at a tribe. And the reason he would be registering it with the tribe, or at least appearing to register it with the tribe, is
He didn't register with the tribe. It doesn't exist.
it doesn't
My point
exist. This is all made up.
This
This is all a
red herring.
fraud. This is
Yeah.
all a
It's
fraud.
all red
well,
herring. He does have a
we
company
have-
called he has a company called St. Matthews Aero LLC,
Mhm.
right? And that's out of Florida, but he has no company named St. Matthews Assurance Ltd.
that we
involves
can
itself
find.
that we can find, nor that
Yeah.
is at that address, nor is it the first tribal insurance company. In that address, I called them and I asked them if they knew, where I could find this company. They had no idea what this company
So
was.
he's not
I asked
only
them,
peddling lies, he is a lie. The whole thing is a lie. The whole construct here is a lie.
We'd love to find out. Yeah.
We have, we'll again, as we reveal this, we did reach out. I did have a list of questions. I have not heard back. We would love to get an explanation for some of this, but that was one of the questions we posed. What is this? And the phone number listed, Sean called, and the Native American Museum person answered the phone, and there was just, we don't know what you're talking about. So,
Wow.
and
Now-
can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
Having spent a lot of time in the Southwest this past year, Native American populations were hit so hard by COVID. I was in Navajo land in Monument Valley recently, and they still hadn't opened up the tribal community because they were just devastated. So the fact that an anti-vax, what appears to be a very fraudy looking site, is using a Native American address is a personal disgrace and affront to me.
Absolutely.
Not
In
to
fact,
mention-
yeah, go ahead.
Not
Go
to
ahead.
mention the sort of the sort of illogic of having an anti-vax site run, operated, and hosted by an insurance company,
Right.
right? So it's like, what the hell are you doing, Todd? It's strange to just go like, okay, there's Vax Choice. Okay, who owns it? I mean, he didn't have to put that they were run and controlled by this company. He could add a privacy policy. Just take that sentence out.
Yeah. You
But
probably
it
just
was
copied and
obviously-
pasted it from something else. I mean, it seems like it's that kind of operation, Look, I mean,
We don't
strange.
know.
you don't know, but we don't
We
know. But we do know a lot
We
about
don't
him.
know.
We do know
Yes,
that
we
there's
do.
because we did find him in the Panama Papers, right? We did find
Mhm.
his name there at least.
So
and I
go with
think
the
that's it.
headline, Sean. Tell him the big number. How many companies registered to him as either director or exec,
yeah, Jesus.
treasurer, secretary?
Yeah, I have my numbers here. Let me find my page.
Like
Okay,
266 maybe.
so
What?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah.
under his company, the Cotswold Corporate Services. We don't have to get in the Cotswold group. Yeah.
It's funny though.
Yeah. He, you'll find registered or connected to him 249 entities connected to Cotswold Services. In the Bahamas Company Registry, Todd Callender appears with 213 companies registered under his name.
So in my
So you've
experience,
got-
when that happens, it's because he is running a company that he's actually registering a lot of companies. It doesn't necessarily mean that he is, owner of these companies, but
Mhm.
probably what he does in the Bahamas is register offshore holdings for very, very rich people and other
He-
foreign companies, would be my guess.
He does both. He does that, and in quite a few of these, he's actually listed as the director or the treasurer, or actually, within the company itself.
Sometimes that happens because they just do that because they don't want to put anyone else's name down. So they say, well, you're
Right.
going to act as the director or the treasury.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily mean he's involved in every of one of these
Right.
entities, but it certainly it means that he's involved in offshore holdings. And he
Well,
certainly,
he's got his-
One point I just want to make is when
Yeah.
they were trying to, there's been so much legislation and so many attempts to try to get rid of the dark money loopholes and try to expose the beneficiary owners of shell companies. And who fought it? Who's always been fighting it? Lawyers, because it's actually big business. So they did not want to see that money go bye-bye. So it could just be that it's a good, profitable venture to be the person who sets up these shells, which
Well, it's also-
requires apparently a lawyer.
it's also, often the front companies are for organized crime. I'm not saying
That's
in
right.
all cases, but in a lot of cases, there is a lot of dirty money that's being parked offshore from organized criminal activities. And these people who are registering these companies are party to those. I'm not saying he is, but that's certainly my experience in looking at these offshore holdings in the past.
So Zev,
But
quickly,
wait,
what he
there's
does
more.
have, his official corporate listings are, he's got 3 companies located in Colorado, 7 companies located in Florida, 1 located in New Zealand, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11 companies located in Panama.
Right. So there you go.
But wait, there's more.
He's got some offshore holdings.
He's diversified, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, there must be, because there always are, connections to Russia. So, so tell us what you discovered
And
there.
not just any Vario in Russia, okay?
Yeah,
like the best, like so good that Stalin would live there.
So in the Panama Papers, again, you find Todd Callender is a co-owner of something called the ZAI Hold company.
Yeah, one second. I'm just going to find that.
Which is Zimmerman.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's Ray Zimmerman and Adams. And it's Todd Callender, Ian Towell, who appears right alongside Todd Callender. He essentially, I believe, is going to be the UK version of Todd, because he signs with a lot of his paperwork. But within that holding, Todd's registered address is, I can't pronounce it, Rubislav, Moscow. It's in Moscow. It's Moscow address, and it's the elite. Yeah. This is one step ahead. So this is who he partnered with. This is the other co-owner.
Yeah, so we'll
Adams or Zimmerman.
But the important thing to know here, and we'll go back to it in just a second, is that he's registered as a director of this company,
as an owner,
as an owner of this company, which is a huge company by the looks of it, and he's also this is something that's registered in Russia. This is not something that is registered in the Bahamas.
If you can find the address slide, it's right around in this general area. We tracked it down, and Sean and I looked at it, and it's where Stalin lived and Lenin lived, and the head of security for Putin lived or lives. Catherine the Great. I want to say
Rublevskoye.
I'm not sure.
That would be my guess. Rublevskoye. I don't know.
It's fancy. It's gated, and apparently it's where the hoi polloi, the mobsters and the politicians hang out.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at the names that you see in this thing. I can't find I'm going to try to find the slide again, but the names on this, the names of the companies on here, and even the names of the people registered. Like the thing that jumped out to me in particular was Rambler Media, which I'd heard of before, which is a search engine company in Russia. This is basically a Google kind of company. It's got a long history with intelligence organization and organized criminality there, and there's some oligarchs that many people will recognize from if they look up Rambler Media that are attached to that. So that is interesting. Metro Media, I should say as well, has come up in my research quite a bit, and I think is another sort of. And I don't want to say this for sure, but I think it's a cell phone company that has had some really interesting and complicated and illegal activity in Ukraine. Lukoil, we all will recognize from the Mueller report, because Lukoil was very involved in the Mueller report. Dragon Capital in Ukraine, I don't know what that is, but you see the word dragon, it often implies some sort of Chinese influence there. A lot of the Russian Federation is very into mobile technology and cell phone technology, because this is how they get to track all their neighboring countries. So when you see Mobicel in Bulgaria or Bosnia and Herzegovina, these are mobile companies not just designed to provide mobile services. These are mobile companies designed to track people and their activities and their conversations. So this is a very dodgy group here.
Very dodgy. And I just have to make one thing clear, guys, real quick, so there's no confusion. Todd Callender, in no way that I found is a partner of ZAI, which is what you're seeing right here. This is Zimmerman Adams Investments. Okay, he's a partner in Zimmerman Adams Investments holding company.
Right.
So it's the holding company, right? So
and Ray Zimmerman is a partner of his.
That's right. In the ZAI.
Yes.
In the ZAI holding. Yeah.
And tell him just a little bit about his partner Ray Zimmerman, because he's not allowed to do that work anymore in the UK because he's been hit with.
So what
fraud
they basically had
allegations.
So the company that we were just looking at, that slide, what that company did was it's a little different on the London Stock Exchange, but what they did was they invested in alternative investment markets, or AIMs as they're called, and what they do what's called a CIS. You'll see that on the slides. It's collective investment schemes. Essentially, AIM was created for being essentially how to take a company to go to an IPO, It's a pre-IPO investments. So it's very dodgy. In fact, it's called the sort of financial Wild West, where companies and ethics are quite sketchy. And what you do is you have to have what's called a nomad. Okay, so the nomad, they're seen as the regulatory system for AIM. They're an advisor in the financial system that sort of shepherds the company onto the alternative investment market. That's what ZAI did. So they would find people that wanted to invest in smaller little companies, such as, we saw with Ramble. They have money, they want to invest in something. Then they would hire ZAI to sort of manage that money and bring the investment onto the sort of the London Stock Exchange and the AIM market and sell as an IPO.
Right.
However, they no longer have that ability, as that right has been stripped away from them after a judiciary panel in London found them guilty of impropriety, fraud, and misrepresentation. So they no longer can be a nomad. They no longer can take people's money and usher it onto.
So these are the people that's peddling. This is the people that are peddling disinformation about vaccines to Americans that they are buying. Yeah, the associates of the people. I'm just saying in the general environment.
The colleagues. The people they have companies with and operations with and register.
Their business associates.
To Russian addresses.
And that's what one of the concerns was, that you have Todd Callender who's giving all of this incredibly hyperbolic speech about law, posting these websites. Why would he be posting this on his website, right? And then you dig a little deeper and you do see a direct connection between himself and someone whose Russian company, right, is operating in a very, very gray, shady area. And the Panama Papers have connections in very dodgy types of relationships. Then for reasons we haven't fully uncovered, but why is he so hidden, right? He certainly isn't making any money from his web presence. I mean, there's nobody's going to find his insurance companies by taking a search for Todd. So how
something is funding him, something is funding that address that he gave, something is funding that whole summit, the White Coat Summit, and who would do that? And
why do it?
And we know
why be an international lawyer who would stake your business and your entire basically career on anti-vax propaganda? Yeah. Why do that? Your entire reputation will be linked in perpetuity to the death of many people. Why would you do that?
Because you would want to look at who benefits from that, and who benefits from that are people who are looking to make money, or people who are looking to extend their power, or people that are looking to disrupt and make America chaos, leave America in chaos.
Or, as you mentioned, you said keyword money. One of our viewers just said, LB would say treasure, and they're right, treasure. There is a little additional piece of this that's worth noting.
And we're going to do that after the break. We're going to do the mother and the daughter after the break. It's a good reason to keep everyone. This has been a terrific conversation. We've gone a little longer, so I hope everyone's okay with that. We'll be right back after this on Narrative. Hey, everybody. Thanks for supporting Narrative. If quality and craftsmanship is important to you, and of course it is to you, you should check out today's sponsor, Made In. Made In is a cookware and kitchenware brand that works with renowned chefs and artisans to produce some of the world's best pots, pans, knives, and wine glasses. The best chefs around the world use Made In cookware and kitchenware to create all the best tasting restaurant quality meals. Made In sources the finest materials and partners with renowned craftsmen to make premium kitchen tools available directly to you without the markup. Their pots, pans, knives, and wine glasses produced by Made In are among the best in the world. They are built to last and offer a lifetime warranty. They have 28,000 five-star reviews, and their products are used by some of the world's best chefs at Michelin-starred restaurants around the world. Made In, better cookware for better meals. Right now, Made In is offering our listeners 15% off your first order with promo code NARRATIVE. That's 15% of your first order with promo code NARRATIVE. It's the best discount available anywhere online for Made In products. So go to madeincookware.com/narrative and use the promo code NARRATIVE, NARATIV, for 15% off your first order. That's madeincookware.com/narrative. Use promo code NARRATIVE. Hey. And they make great cookware. I got to say, they make really great stuff. I'm a terrible cook, but I appreciate what they do. Because who has time to cook? I mean, there's just no time these days. So let's catch up. You have time to cook?
You cook?
I hella cook. I hella cook.
What does that mean?
I hella cook. I can cook.
Okay, good.
I can cook and I can bake.
We have to have a meal at some point in the future.
Yes.
How do you do all this? How do you investigate these massive stories?
know.
Do this incredible writing that you do shows like Narrative, and you still have time to cook, and you
Because
go
I'm
hiking.
old. I'm
Hella
old and
cool.
I've done it a long time. So for me, investigating is like the way Fred Astaire danced. You know what I mean? I just like,
Yeah.
oh, gonna go do this, go down this rabbit hole, and then carve out time for hiking and, you know, seeing my kids.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just,
It's awesome.
it's age and experience.
And sometimes you do your best thinking when you're doing something else. I mean,
That's
I
true,
like,
yeah.
when you're hiking or cooking or whatever, sometimes
That's right.
you
I
seem
became
to,
a narrative fangirl because of my hiking. That's when I would catch up on episodes. And that's when I saw how legit the work was that you were doing. And that's when I started sending you messages. It was my dream to actually come on a show and to be able to help, work with you on this is just, I think we're just going to wreck shop. We're doing it today.
I'm so thrilled that you are here, and I'm so thrilled that you are doing this, because this is really important and work. And Sean, you've done what an amazing bit of investigation here. This really is stunning, but we still have a little bit to go because there's two other things we've got to do. Let's talk about the mom and the daughter.
right,
This is Todd Callender, the guy we showed you at the top of the show. He's a lawyer of unknown origin, but apparently lives in the Bahamas. And he was at this conference, the White Coat Summit, where he was helping people understand how they could sue the government on all these false claims that, the vaccinations can kill you, which they can't.
Yeah, this is the big reversal that you read about in the Hollywood scripts, right? This is so Todd Callender, biggest anti-vax attorney out there that we could find, hosting the most hyperbolic anti-vax website, is from a family that co-founded and owns the vaccine technology company.
Vaccine technology company.
His mother and his sister own a company called PharmaJet. Okay, PharmaJet. What they do is they have a syringe. It's a needleless syringe injection technology.
So his family makes
so
money
his
off vaccines.
His family has a $10 million. They have a $10 million contract with the WHO. Right now,
we might have that PharmaJet slide to show.
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
I can't
find it. But I'll get to it. I'll find it. I'm just a little bit stunned by that, because you're saying that the same guy who's running an operation, it appears, to stop people from getting vaccinated because he believes they contain all these nanoparticles and that they are made to track you and what have you. You're saying that his family is actually owners of a technology which allows the delivery of vaccines?
That's what I'm saying, Zeb. Yeah.
And why would they do that? Where's the sense in that?
Where's the sense in what?
Why would the guy be out there saying, "Hey, don't do vaccines"? Meanwhile, he's making money off vaccines. It's because he might want to.
I asked his mother and I asked his sister if they could explain more about their incredible tech.
I'm sorry, I screwed up something here, and I accidentally got you off the microphone there, Heidi. But go ahead, say that again. Say everything you found out about.
Just super quick. Essentially, I reached out to the mom and to the sister to find out more about what sounds like amazing technology, and to see if there's like a division in the family, since Todd is so rabidly anti-vax, calling it death shots on his site. And here they are. If you keep on scrolling around, you'll probably get to the PharmaJet slide that basically shows that they just did a gigantic deal with emergency clearance in India to basically use their technology for vaccines for COVID.
It's the first plasmid. Yeah, it's the first plasmid DNA vaccine for COVID-19 that was found usable under the emergency use authorization in India. So
what does that mean? It means they're making something that doesn't require needles, right? I mean, that's basically
needless. Yeah. And his mother, who used to be a dentist, her mom was a dentist, and she's the president of the company. And she started the company when she heard that the WHO was searching for a low-cost alternative to needle syringes for their UNICEF vaccine program. So the whole company came out of the fact that his mom realized that the WHO was in need of a needleless syringe for UNICEF, for the vaccine program for UNICEF.
This smells very fishy to me. But this smells really, really, really fishy to me.
Zev, you know what scares me? Yeah. My friend Josh Fidel, who's another one of these OSINT Sherpas, He said, "Who would really enjoy needleless technology? Ever heard of Novichok?" And I was like,
Right. Good point. But
You
the
know.
reality of this, these, firstly, it smells, right? Why is he out there saying, don't get vaccinated, when in reality, what he's saying through those anti-vaccination program that he's running is he wants to extend the pandemic by stopping people from getting vaccinated. He's extending the pandemic. What happens when you extend the pandemic? Even greater need for vaccines and even greater need for medication, even more ways for people to make money. So this is a money grab. This guy is basically out there promulgating all this because he is trying to make COVID stick around, kill more people, and basically, I'm not saying he directly wants to kill people. I'm saying the effect of what he's doing has that, and that they will ultimately are trying to make money off it. I mean, how else can you explain this bizarre thing that he's doing?
It's so
I
bizarre.
don't know.
It's either that he is, beholden to someone, right? And he's pushing their messaging, which would be an international player, or there's some very bizarre, convoluted scheme in which, by extending this pandemic, what do they eventually blame the needle that's being the jab? So now we have jabless. Don't call it jab anymore.
Right.
It's jabless. I mean, it's so bizarre.
Also, this technology
Or
sometimes
he
exists.
doesn't like his mother and his sister, but that doesn't pass the smell test.
It's probably that this technology was not created by her, and my guess is, and I'm guessing, I don't know any of this. This is a total guesswork, so don't, no one sue me for this piece. But the reality of it is, this could be technology that originates out of other entities, maybe maybe government entities, who knows, and that they're being privatized through these companies, and then sold into different areas. So it could be something like that, because this guy,
I would like to hear from them. I really would.
We really do want to hear from Pharma.
Yes.
Is it PharmaJet?
PharmaJet.
Yes,
PharmaJet.
we encourage the
everything that
Calendar
I've read
family
about-
to reach out.
Everything I've read about PharmaJet is above board. I mean, they have LinkedIn websites, they have actual pages. They've done interviews before. So compared to Todd, right, PharmaJet is like, a cornucopia of information. I mean, they're a legitimate company. They have legitimate investors. They have 64 different, not peer-reviewed papers, but they have publications on their technology. They have 64 trials that they've been a part of. So they've gone through. It's a 15-year-old company. They've been around for a while.
Okay. Then he is trying to find a way to make them more money because they need the pandemic to continue. I mean, the reality of it is
bizarre.
If you have pandemic continues and we get different variants and whatever, and this thing keeps rolling on because so much of the population does not want to get vaccinated, there is money to be made out of that. That's the truth. There is just money to be made out of that. It certainly wouldn't be the first time the pharma sector has been accused of that kind of thinking. Wow, that's an incredible find and kind of mind-boggling. Now there's more, because you also have some audio tapes.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, this is really interesting too.
This goes back to the initial meeting that I had with an individual that was at the conference, and so I'd recorded, because Texas is a one-party state, I could record without having to address it. But this was part of the audio. This is part of the kickoff of me becoming very concerned that she had gone to a conference and was essentially sort of going down her list, the check marks of items that she was just regurgitating these talking points from the conference.
And this is a great thing he's about to play for our viewers, because this is how the disinformation is seeded, and this is how it becomes proselytized.
So we saw Todd Callender give the address to the White Coat Summit. He's explaining to people who are attending it how they can launch their own lawsuits against government officials and the administrations in their states or in the federal administration. And then you are in contact with one of the people that was attending that. And then this is the conversation that you had, and you recorded because it is legal to do so in Texas.
You said something about they got $400,000
for diagnosis.
Now that's a very provocative number, but what's the fucking basis for it?
Right, yeah.
You mean the basis of how I know that?
Well, where do we come up with the number 400,000? Where do we come up with that?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to dive in. Just from the data that I've gotten from doctors and the scientists, the doctors have been testifying. The hospitals got the 400,000 for diagnosis. This is from testimony.
You said something about they got.
So this is a theory. This is a conspiracy theory we've been hearing a lot of. That doctors and hospitals are making money off diagnosing people with COVID.
$400,000. And, you know, when we were asking, you know, where does that number come from? And this happened again and again and again. Is that she didn't know, right? She couldn't provide us that, but she knew that it was true, right? And she could get us that information.
So she's at a conference. She's getting all these lies peddled to her. She's accepting it as truth because she's at a conference and these guys look legit. And in reality, there's nothing very true about it. And she's then going to tell other people. We're going to tell other people. And this is how lies get spread. And we know they get spread fast online.
The important piece here is where she referred me to find out about the information, vaxchoice.com.
Right. She sends you back to Todd Callender's website. Wow. Let's listen to the rest of this.
I mean, the variance, doctor after doctor have postulated that the variance is such a minute amount that it's really not significant, and that variants are an indication that the virus is evolving downwards. So the Delta variant is akin to a common cold. It's really not a threat at all. And I just received several studies today, and I've been hearing this quite a bit, that it is the vaccinated people that are accounting for these hospitalizations and deaths. It's not unvaccinated people. And that goes along with the antibody-dependent enhancement that was expected.
That just blows my mind.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty skeptical about some of this.
What?
I'm fairly skeptical about some of this.
I mean,
Yes, you should be skeptical about it. It's completely untrue. Nothing she said there was true, but here is someone who is peddling these lies.
And this is frightening. This was in, you know, the week after that conference, and no one knew that much about the Delta variant essentially. And for her to be going out there saying that it's not harmful. I mean, Jesus Christ is the exact opposite of that.
The exact opposite.
It does get into the kids. I mean, and she was going out there speaking with that confidence and that assurance that you know is completely unfounded. And when asked for evidence and asked for data on this, she referred us back to vaxchoice.com. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
Sandy Bosham was how I found out about the Nuremberg Code, because she was out there covering a protest and she was seeing all these signs and she's like, what the hell is this? Where is this? What's the origins of this? So when Sean and I first teamed up and I heard that clip, I was like, oh my God.
So all the big myths, you got ivermectin, you've got the Nuremberg, you've got nanoparticles, you've got this $400,000 paid for per patient, and now that the variant was not actually affecting the unvaccinated. Those 5 myths are all originating partially, we think, from this conference, from Mr. Callender standing up in front of the White Coat Summit there and telling people that these are true and they're in fact complete lies.
If not the origin, it's certainly a major point at which it sort of exploded in
hitting all the themes. Yeah, the inflection point.
Yeah.
And Mr. Callender has these odd connections, you know, with Russia. He seems to be a man who operates in the shadows. He lives in the Bahamas. So what's he doing here anyhow? Even though he's an American, originally from Colorado, it does seem weird. And his main amount of information we could find about him was in the very interesting Panama Papers, which is, of course, an offshore holdings database that was leaked, you know, often linked to dodgy, dirty money around the world. This guy is not, you know, the kind of person you'd go to for information about any health issue.
Certainly not as an attorney if you're looking to file a malpractice lawsuit or medical, or, you know, this guy, any law experience that he has associated with him is in finance and insurance. So, you know, now that I'm not going to take your word for it as an attorney, you know, anyway, that's rational thinking trying to be applied to irrational.
Well, he is apparently still licensed in Colorado, because he file that attempted class action lawsuit on behalf of the military. Tried to put out a temporary restraining order on behalf of the entire military in the state.
Yeah.
And a judge read it, and I think we may have an image. A judge read it, and he just said that the argument was specious and denied it, and that was all she wrote.
That was that. Yeah.
It's
absurd. I mean, it's very strange. It seems so outrageous. This is verging Sidney Powell area. It's so bad, and it's such I mean, if he's a lawyer, he has a bar card, right? We know that, but he would know that this is not fucking. I mean, there's no way that this would fly. I mean, he would know that going into it. So what the hell are you doing even, you know, putting forward?
Well, this is Big Lie. I mean, this is Big Lie 2 or Big Lie 7, whatever you want to call it. It's the same strategy to flood us with these lies, and they are having such a big impact in society. I mean, we're seeing people die, whether it's on January the 6th or whether we're seeing it in this pandemic right now. We're seeing kids dying. We're seeing kids get infected. We're seeing the unvaccinated people in this country are being really, really hurt by this pandemic right now. And regardless of what you think of their politics or what have you of that, there's no reason for this to be happening. It's just perpetuating a disaster. And, it's up to the leaders of that party. And I don't know how they shake themselves out of where they're at right now, but it's up to the leaders in those communities to write this. And I don't believe that they don't know the truth. I think the people on Fox News know the truth. I think the people
They're all vaccinated.
They're all vaccinated, right? They're all vaccinated.
Trump was the first one back in January. He got vaccinated months before the common man. I guess we're all just disposable, as Anne said. I guess we're just all roadkill on their way to making money and having dominion over the earth. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, there's no other way to look at it, and it's there's an urgency to this that I think is so important. Sean, you've done such great work, and I'm so glad you've brought this to everyone's attention. I hope legislators get to see this. I hope legislators get to familiarize themselves with what's going on, because we do need to get our handle on how this information works. I know the Senate Intelligence Committee is doing some important work around it. Senator Warner is involved in that, and I hope they pay some attention to what's going on with this anti-vaccination myths that are being promulgated out there, because literally killing people, taxing our whole healthcare system, all the ancillary deaths and all the ancillary disease that is happening because people can't get in to see their doctors. It's happening everywhere, and then this devastating polarization of our American society based on actually us killing ourselves is impossible. Like, we have to stop it. Yeah. We have to stop it immediately.
And that's why we initially were hoping to file a false claims case against them, or a key tam, because that's one of the only instances in which an individual who's not bringing the case themselves doesn't have to be injured. Like, I can bring a case to the federal government as a False Claims Act as or later, and they can take that information and then prosecute, right? And it's a civil action, but still, I don't have to have been injured. So we were bringing them information about America's Frontline Doctors, a RAVCU pharmacy, Speak with an MD, saying, look, this is the channel of information. This is where they're profiting. This is how they're defrauding the federal government. And then, but we're not.
Can't we do a class action lawsuit like that? I mean, we're all getting hurt.
We're all getting hurt. Class actions are more difficult because in class actions the damages all have to be similar, so you're in, there's such dissimilar damages for people who are affected by this. So it would be more called a mass multi-district litigation, or an MDL would be that probably that would fall under. But my concern is, and what we're trying to find out now with my group is what sort of causes of action can we use to hold people accountable that are actually resulting in real injuries, as we've seen. People dying in the hospital because they've been waiting on their ivermectin, script to go through, things like that. There are actually real concerns and real injuries. And if we can figure out that sort of novel legal theory, then we're going to really try and partner with other firms and push that forward to hold these people accountable from spreading this information. Whether or not that's criminal, I'm not sure yet.
And the hospital systems must be, or states must be injured too, because they're paying for a lot of these things. So, it's like the tobacco legislation that ultimately
that was
through.
My thought. Was make this a key tam. This is a federal class. This is a federal false claims case because they're defrauding. It would seem.
I think absolutely. I mean, whatever you need to do, I think you got to do it. And however we can help, will help. And it's really important, I think, that this gets done, because the damages are massive. The damages are massive. I mean, it's much bigger than tobacco, really.
Yes.
It cannot continue. And if these guys don't get, they'll pop up everywhere all the time unless one of them gets stopped. And this seems like an interesting one to go after.
The big concerns of is insurance wise. If you take one of these alternative off-label uses of this medication, your insurance flat denies you. So there's a claim you get denied. Here's the worst part. It could also potentially make you not eligible for what's it called? Sort of long-term insurance, right? So disability. There's a big talk going around now. If you have long-term COVID effects, are you able to file for disability? Well, if you take an alternative medication for health, you're not going to be able to get.
Are you serious? So if you take your own medication, like ivermectin, or are we talking about other things?
Right. No. If you take ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine as a means for curing your COVID-19, right now your long-term disability insurance is not going to be valid.
Unbelievable.
So either way you look at it, they're killing us, maiming us, creating chaos. And Zev, I'll tell you, I had just I had like a little mini breakdown today when I looked at that photo. I was updating our blog site and I looked at that photo of Dr. Nick Sawyer from yesterday that he took of himself when he was working. He flew into battle. He's from California, but when COVID hit and New York and everybody was dying, he flew there. I'm getting chills again. I'm going to get all emotional. There's a picture he took of himself, and I put it at the very, very end of the slides. I don't know if we have it.
I don't. Sorry, but
all I can say is that the look in that man's eyes. You'll see it on our blog site later, so you all can see what I'm talking about, and I bet you'll all cry. The look of devastation. It's like the images I've seen of people in Vietnam. You know, where they've just got that they've seen too many dead people look, and it's out of their control. That's
Dr. Sawyer really is a hero. I mean, everything he has done and continues to do with his new website that we exposed everyone to yesterday is so important. And, you know, when you have heroes like that are trying to fight this on the ground like that, and in hospitals and in ERs everywhere in the country, we can only help them by doing whatever we can to stop the origins of this, which is really these lies, this propaganda, this nonsense.
We are in a war of words. That's right. This is a war of words. It's a psychological war. It does not seem to be abating. The media still covers it as if it's normal. They still quote Kellyanne Conway as if she's legit. We are in a psych war. And guys like this, I'm sorry, Todd, I wish you would have responded so we could have heard your side of the story. But guys like this, as far as I'm concerned, are using words that are having real life impacts and killing people.
Yeah, and it's an information war, and we know who's fighting this information war. We know that ultimately Russia and China, just to circle back to the top of the show here, those are the people that are ultimately the experts at information war. Those are the people that are ultimately the, we know that they're running disinformation about COVID right now. I'm not saying this guy is necessarily a part of that, but he could be, judging by where his companies and his colleagues are based. But it is clear that he is part of an information war designed to create chaos and kill people. And whatever we can do legally to stop him, we'll help you in whatever way you can, Sean. So, and maybe there's some people we can connect you with to who might want to be involved in that as well. We better go. We've been talking forever, and as fun as this has been, we gotta go. So thanks so much, Sean. Thanks, Heidi. Terrific work.
Heidi,
I mean, really, really impressive. This is bombshell stuff. I really encourage everyone to share this show and share the news that we've discovered here today. It's so important that we get this out there, and more people are exposed to the reality of what's going on. That it's not the people who aren't getting vaccinated who are should be the target of our anger. It's the people spreading the disinformation to those people. Those are the people we need to stop, and that's where the anger needs to be focused, and that includes Fox News and everywhere else. Sean, what is your Twitter? People are asking online.
Oh, it's at it's at Sean _Connor 2023. So look at Sean Connor 2023. Yeah.
So Sean _Connor.
Yes.
2023.
2023.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you very much. And Heidi Kuda, everybody knows how to get to you at Heidi _Kuda. Everyone knows how to get to me at Zev Shalev. And you can also support Narrative by going to patreon.com/narrative and subscribe to our Patreon program. You get lots of benefits, but you also get to keep us alive and keep us creating content like this on a regular basis. We'll be back on Friday with the after show. We have a day off. Yay. Hard, but yes. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. And thanks, Sean.
I'm just going to cook all day. Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it a lot. Thanks, Heidi. Thanks.
Yeah, we're going to have a bi-coastal cook-off, you and me, Heidi. We'll do the same dish, and we'll see who does it better. I think you will.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night, everybody.